Hello students. Yes, in my previous video I had started with the factors influencing capital budgeting, where I have covered 5 to 6 of points, where I'll just go through with the points was explained in the previous video. First one is availability of the funds, where a financial manager has to see to it what are the different sources available. Is it equity in form of debentures? Should I go for raising the capital? And is it in form of issuing the preference shares, or is it in form of raising the term loans, right? So always an investment decision which is made with respect to capital budgeting, it should be planned in such a way that it can raise the cheaper source of funds quickly, right? So that is very important. So as a financial manager, he needs to take care what are the availability, that is what are the sources available for me, that is for the organization, in order to raise the capital required. Well, next we spoke about the structure of capital, which tells that what will be the combination. What does your capital outlay contain? What does your investment contain? That is equities to debt, or equities to preferences to debt. What it is, so that composition of securities in the capital structure, it is again going to influence the investment decision. Then we discussed about taxation policy. It is something where company it prefers to enjoy the benefits of the tax, that which it has to choose the investment proposals like judiciously, very carefully it has to take care of. And considering of the taxation policy at the time of taking the decision in capital budgeting is really very important. Then it is government policies, where policy speaks about the set of the guidelines or the principles with respect to the industrial policy or any kind of foreign policies, right? So it is very important that a financial institutions, the assistance from these kind of institutions, they should be carefully analyzed, because it is going to influence to any of the decisions that which is made with respect to the investment. Then at last, in my previous video I had explained on immediate need of the project, which means that again this is one of the important factors, because it is going to directly influence the investment decision. And some of the decisions of the investment, like, they may not yield the immediate returns. As I've told you, investment is something today I'm going to invest, but in the future, over a period of time, I am going to receive the return, which is investment is all about the deferred consumption. I am going to enjoy my return in the future, right? So the financial manager has to take care of all his finance the portfolios, right? So that it would yield a good return. Well, now we'll move on to the next point, earnings. What do you mean by earnings? See, earnings of the proposed projects, they are actually the important factors that which is going to highly influence the investment decisions. See, if the earning capacity of the project is not good, then it is not at all advisable, isn't it? So on the part, if the financial manager to take such decisions, you will have to take the gentle, a wise decision, depending upon the projects. He needs to compare. If I go ahead in investing in terms of bank in form of the FT, and on the other hand I will think of derivatives. If this is the case, always his first priority will be to the bank. If he's a kind of speculator who always, of course, whether it is a small business or a big business, you will see the element of risk. It's something like, bigger the business, bigger the capital, bigger the capital, bigger the risk, isn't it? That's how vice versa with a smaller business. That's how things are going to work. So here the project will be economically viable, and it can be implemented. And the profitability of the project, it also decides the investment. See, basically earnings is something where, see, at the end of the day, you as an individual, in being an investor, the government, financial institutions, what is the basic motto of investing? Is it that I'll invest 10,000 today, after 1 year in 2021 I'll receive the same 10,000? No. What is the purpose of investment? Whatever the money I am going to pour in, whatever the money I'm going to put in form of purchasing an asset, or in terms of any of the projects, right? in terms of shares, derivatives, whatever it is, always you have an intention of minting in the money, that is to make more money. What you are going to invest, that becomes your capital. On that, what you receive, that gives your capital appreciation. So earnings is something that which is very important in terms of measuring the economic viability and how it is being implemented, right? So profitability is something that which acts as a barometer in order to judge whether this organization is doing absolutely great, or it is being a sound in terms of finance, right? All these are really very important. Moving on to next point, it is a capital return. What does capital return talk about? See, it is nothing but the payback of investment. Fine, what does it talk about? See, here the management, while taking an investment decisions, it has to, like, assess, it has to evaluate so as to how soon it will get back its investment. I guess you people remember in your second year fourth sem, we have no like we have learnt about this, right? So what does it talk about? For especially for second years, they have this particular subject of financial management, where they calculate the payback period in fourth sem, right? So they have payback period. What does that payback period says? If I have invested 10,000 today, that is my investment. I'm not talking about my profits, what I'm going to generate on that. I'm just talking about the investment 10,000. By which year will I recover that particular 10,000? That's it. That talks about payback period concept, wherein many a times it directly affects the long term planning of the firm. Therefore, a financial manager, he should be very very careful in terms of evaluating the proposals at the time of finalizing the investment decisions. Always a financial manager, he has to make a wise decision with respect to where he has to invest. After that, he has to look after the factor of safety, how safe it is for the organization to invest in that particular proposal or in that particular project, right? What is that factor of safety you have, right? All these is going to matter. Well, so the next point what we have is economic value of the project. Now, what does economic value of project talk about? See, investment decisions, they are influenced by the economic value of the that particular project. See, economic value is nothing but how best the project can expand the cash flows over a period of time, and what will be the cash outflows, like with the initial investment, and that should be satisfy the funds needed of the project. So whatever I am gonna invest, that money should grow, right? Then it is not relevant at all if it doesn't fetch in the money. Fine. So always a project where you deal in with where you invest, it is very important that you take care that it is going to yield you or fetch you the amount on that. So the economic value, how best the project is going to bring in you the that is generate the income, all these are going to matter. The next step, what you have is working capital. What does working capital talk about? See, there are basically two types of working capital requirements, which which is going to arise in the particular enterprise or the industry. There's something called as permanent working capital, and on the other hand you have a variable working capital. Permanent working capital, see, working capital, I guess what is working capital. Working capital is nothing but the funds what you require in order to run your day-to-day operations, right? I hope you guys are clear with this. Working capital talks about the funds that which you require in order to run your day-to-day activities. Fine. So in that you have two types. One is permanent working capital, and the other one is the variable working capital. What is this permanent working capital? See, it is a portion of the capital, which is permanently needed in the organization, in order to buy the investors. Or so financial manager, he has to consider what are the requirements of the firms, what is the capital that I have to keep it in form of fixed. That fixed is nothing but basically you are going to carry it out the capital for a longer period of time, that which is going to achieve achieve the factor of going concern plus a sustainability, right? So variability according to the needs and wants, that is the according to the circumstances of the organization you need it. So financial manager, he has to consider the requirements of the firm, that is in terms of financing the investment. How will I budget? How will I get the financing? How will I raise the funds? How will I allocate? How will I utilize? How am I going to have the control over the cash flows? This stays about the working capital. The next up what you have is accounting practices. What does accounting practices talk about? See, while making an investment decision, standard accounting practices, they have to be evolved, of course, right? So the accounting policies, they are different for the different types of projects, and the treatment of depreciation, it is going to affect the cash flows, right? So of course, yes, every day. So what is depreciation? Depreciation is nothing but the wear and tear of the assets, where every year over the period of the usage period, the particular fixed asset, it is going to lose its value. There will be a decrease in the value of a fixed asset, right? So it is very necessary that the knowledge of all these, it is going to help the financial manager in making the the investment decision at with utmost promptness and accuracy. That's very important. Well, the last point what you have is trends of earnings. Now what does trends of earnings talk about? See, the profit, or the return which is attached with the investment, right? So for a business, a firm, as a business, the risk is associated directly with the profitability, right? And there will be a lots and lots of fluctuations in terms of earnings, and they are normally seen from the project as well. Trend of earnings is something when I'm compared with the base year, compared with if I will have to estimate the future period, what do you think the trend of earnings will be? Same? Will it be stable or constant? No, of course, because business, it is always attached with two factors called risk and uncertainty, where risk is something which is predictable, which but whereas on the other hand, this particular uncertainty is something which is unpredictable. You can't predict it. As and when the event occurs, then you will have to experience it, then you will have to come up with a solution to overcome that particular problem. So all these factors are going to majorly affect at the time of making a capital budgeting decision. So again, this is one of the important questions you can expect in your exam. Very important. All these points are the major factors that which is going to affect the investment decision.